Corbin Burnes, Alex Bregman, and many more remain on the free agent market. We'll dig into where they stand and who could possibly be signing quickly out of the Christmas break and ahead of the new year. That and more ahead here at The Upside. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hopefully you guys are having a great Christmas day, spending it with friends and family. We are about to head over and do the same with ours after a great evening last night. So hopefully you guys had as much fun as we did. Welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. Really want to thank you guys for all the support you guys have given us, getting us very close in the overnight hours to our 2,000 subscriber goal. We gained like 13 overnight. Just really nice to see the response you guys have for us. I know I get all your friendly messages that y'all have sent to our channel via all the other chats that y'all send when we aren't live. So I wanted to take a minute and thank you guys for that. Really does mean quite a lot when you guys take the time and do that. So thank you. If you're new here, hit that like and subscribe. We're very close to hitting 2,000. We'll see how close we can get today. Alrighty, welcome in Frankie, Holly, Mike. I want to start with where things stand with Corbin Burnes and Alex Bregman. Nothing's really changed in the overnight hours, but the one thing I did want to refresh everybody is where he really stands. First, we'll start with Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes, of course, the favorite right now is the San Francisco Giants. The Blue Jays have had interest at different times. The Red Sox have been in there at different times. Dodgers have at least checked in once or twice. I've heard a few different rumors regarding the Dodgers. Rangers at one time were considered to be a dark horse team, a quote-unquote mystery team, according to John Heyman, in Corbin Burnes' services. So where do we stand as we are at Christmas Day? What can we look forward to? Well, we're hearing lately, anyway, that the Giants' money isn't exactly where Burnes was hoping it would be. You have to think it's got to be very comparable to where the Max Fried money is. Maybe he was expecting even more than that. I would imagine so, because he was valued at a higher point before the offseason even began. But he's going to get a very lucrative contract. What this tells me is that he's not getting an offer from a team that he really wants to go to that's commensurate with the price tag he had really set for himself. That tells me this might take a little bit of time. I'm not expecting it to happen today. I'm not expecting it to happen tomorrow. But it could happen sometime before New Year's or a little bit thereafter. The rumors that I'm hearing over the last couple of days anyway is that the Giants aren't necessarily willing to go above certain tax thresholds, and that's part of the reason why they're not going after Corbin Burnes at necessarily the highest AAV that they could give him. That may lead him to, keeping the door open for a mystery team. I still think they'll work out their difference. I still think he ends up back in the Bay Area, California kid. There are some rumors about the Dodgers. If things work out with Roki Sasaki, that they won't have him in there. If Sasaki goes elsewhere, then they'll have an opening in that rotation for Kershaw or whoever they want to bring in, Scherzer. But if they want to go to the top of the market, they may go for a Corbin Burnes. So that remains on the back burner. So if this thing takes even longer, we could see the Dodgers enter the chat for Corbin Burnes. The other teams that I've mentioned when it comes to Corbin Burnes, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Boston Red Sox, it seems like Boston specifically has already moved on. They've now added 3 starting pitchers to their rotation: Garrett Crochet, Patrick Sandoval, and now Walker Buehler. None of those guys are Corbin Burnes, sure. But we're looking at where he would fit on that roster, and there's just not a fit in that rotation for him anymore. They've already spent their money that they were going to delegate to that rotation, and now the real conversation anyway, for the Red Sox remains around Alex Bregman, if they'll have the money to go after him, or if they just settle for somebody a little bit lesser. But I really like what the Red Sox have done this offseason. I just don't think they're a fit anymore at this time for Corbin Burnes. The other team, the Toronto Blue Jays, they're trying to get anybody to take their money this offseason. We look at their team right now. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette are both headed for free agency after the year. They really don't have anything long-term on their books that you'd point to and say, hey, that's a reason why they should be contenders. They have some long-term deals still on their books, sure. Barrios comes to mind. But outside of that, you're left with George Springer, Gausman for a year, and then beyond that, just a bunch of young guys, and Chris Jimenez. None of those players really inspire the confidence that a Bichette or Guerrero would if they were signed long-term. Guerrero, one bit of news anyway on him, is that he has now set a date for his extension talks to come to a head, one way or the other. If he's going to get an extension done, he wants it done before the start of spring training. If it doesn't happen by then, he says he's very happy going to free agency. So do not expect an extension. I don't think any of us really were. But once we get to spring training, I think Blue Jays fans, the writing is going to be on the wall. Either you win this year and you try to re-sign him in the offseason, or you lose and you lose him for nothing. So the Blue Jays have a lot riding on this season, so they're going to try to invest in this team heavily. Remember, that front office is risking their jobs right now. If they don't win, they're expected to be fired probably right after the trade deadline, so the new team can come in there and kind of set up shop. Manager could be gone after this year. Toronto's in a big, situation that has nothing but uncertainty right now. And until they make some positive additions to this team, I don't see why a major free agent right now would go in there, besides the money, and say, hey, this is the place where I want to be. So I like the rumors that we've been hearing the last couple of days around Nick Pivetta. I like the rumors that we're hearing about Anthony Santander, but those are just kind of ancillary pieces. Those at least get the ball rolling in the right direction. Neither of those moves makes you a favorite in the AL East. Neither of those moves would make you a favorite to make a wild card spot. They would still have more work to do. Possibly making those two additions and others could help convince a guy like Alex Bregman to go to Toronto, or to convince Bregman to reconsider playing in Toronto. But as it stands, even with the highest offer on the table for Corbin Burnes, sounds like they're an also-ran in this category. As for the other teams, Texas spent their money on Jock Peterson after trading away Nathaniel Lowe. They're looking to upgrade their bullpen primarily. There is a way they could make it work if Corbin Burnes just went to the Rangers and said, hey, look, I really want to play in Texas. Whatever we got to do to make it work financially, I really want this total value on the contract. So whatever we got to do, backload the contract, backload the Yates deal, whatever we got to do, there's a way the Rangers could shoehorn it in there by backloading those deals. Would it be the best ideal situation for them? Probably not from a financial perspective. There are some numbers that indicate Burnes is on the backside of his career. But in general, you look at a rotation that would feature DeGrom, Eovaldi, and Burnes at the top, with Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, Molly, possibly Gray, unless you trade him away. You have so many different options in that rotation, so many different long-term ways you can go if you bring in a Burnes, and I think he'd be a difference maker for Texas. I just think it's very unlikely that chance happens. So I think right now, at least until the beginning of the new year, it's the Giants that are the considerable favorite out there for him. Maybe another team jumps in here, but I just don't see where the finances would really come from for other teams. For instance, Philadelphia was expected to shake up their roster. They pretty much spent their money now. They're not expected to do anything major. The biggest thing they may do is try to trade Alec Boehm, but I think that's pretty unreasonable considering the asking price they have on him was Mason Miller in return from Oakland. Mason Miller has roughly double the value of Boehm. That's not going to happen. Other teams that could use a starting pitcher like Atlanta or Chicago would love to have a player like Corbin Burnes, but they can't afford to spend $30 million a year on doing it. So I think it's pretty much the Giants right now, and that might hamstring the negotiations around Burnes and drive this to take a little bit of time. Same thing when we look at Pete Alonso and the New York Mets. The Mets are really the only team in the market for Alonso, with maybe one or two peripheral teams, but nobody really in the running here. A lot of teams that were looking at Alonso as a possibility have went on and pivoted to other options. For instance, the Yankees bring in Goldschmidt. We saw Naylor go to the D-backs. We see Walker go to the Astros. Then immediately after the trade Naylor, the Guardians bring in Carlos Santana. Nathaniel Lowe goes to the Nationals. Nationals were one team that was interested in bringing in Pete Alonso. So this may take a while for Alonso as well, and he may not get the money he was hoping for. But welcome in, everybody. Got 65 of you guys in here. 70 of you guys. Wow, okay. Thank you guys for joining us. If you guys are new here, hit that like and subscribe. Trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We were only 14 away when we started the video. So if you wouldn't mind helping us out, we would greatly appreciate that. We are very, very close. Welcome in Frankie, Holly, Mike, David, Abraham, and Yodel. Appreciate you guys joining us. Merry Christmas to all. Absolutely Merry Christmas, everybody. Yankees trade Rodon and give Burnes his money. That'd be an interesting move, but they're not going to be able to move Rodon, at least at this point. Why won't they trade? Why won't the Blue Jays trade Vlad now? Because I think the writing is on the wall that front office has to win. Whether that's the best decision for that organization, the best intentions of the organization be damned. What the ownership group wants is a winner, and it sounds like their front office, in order to keep their job, has to have a winner there, and they haven't done anything to really push the needle for them. And they're not going to get an extension with Guerrero. They're not going to get an extension with Burnes. The logic would tell you the time to have traded Bichette and Guerrero would have been a year ago. That time has passed. The best time to trade them now probably is looking at the trade deadline, and that's only if you're out of contention. So I don't think they're going to move on from either one of those pieces right now. Abraham, when are the Mariners going to make a move? Welcome in from Walla Walla, Washington. All righty. Welcome in, everybody. For your Mariners, when are they going to make a move? I'd say as soon as they decide what they want to do with Luis Castillo. $15 million is the Mariners' self-imposed budget. That's not a whole heck of a lot of money. Honestly, the whole thing they were about to give to Carlos Santana to upgrade their first base spot. I wonder if they move off of Luis Castillo to, say, a team like Baltimore. They bring back Mountcastle, and then they try to go into free agency and see who they can bring in. Yodel, Yankees got Burnes, yes or no? No, they did not. The Giants are still considered the favorite there. Maybe a team like the Yankees could enter the chat in a couple of weeks if they somehow manage to get off the Stroman money and backload that deal for Burnes, but I don't see that really happening. Would I say there's a 0% chance of it? No, just because his market could go in any number of directions because of how the numbers have really played out for Burnes. Frankie, Alonso shot himself in the foot. He should have taken the offer from the Mets before. Possibly, but the free agent has the right to make his decision. Maybe he just doesn't want to go back to New York. All indications say he does want to go back to the Mets, but maybe he's eyeing another situation out there that may not have materialized yet. That's always on the back burner, but I would say that he did kind of overplay his hand. I'll agree with you on that one by not agreeing to the bigger deal before all these free agents came off the board and all these other teams that were looking at first baseman, filled their voids. Now there's really not competition for him, and so they may decide to go with another option, a cheaper, younger option, or just younger and better in Alex Bregman. Maybe they do both, but the Mets can do any number of things here with Alonso. Meanwhile, Alonso, to maximize his value, probably has to hope for the Mets and the Mets and the Mets and the Mets and the Mets. That's it. Alrighty. Anthony, welcome in, welcome back. Got about 85 of you guys in the chat. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate that. It would go a long way to helping out our channel, getting very close to that 2,000 subscriber goal. Anthony, do you think the trade for the Phillies was out of desperation? That's why they traded for Jesus, because they don't trust the back of the rotation? I think it's because they didn't trust Taijuan Walker, period. Honestly, I would not have made the trade for either team. The Marlins didn't get enough. The Phillies, I don't really like the fit. I think Taijuan Walker would give you very similar value for what Luzardo could bring. Sure, Luzardo probably has a higher ceiling at this point, but I don't think Walker's going to give you a 7 ERA again. I think you could probably expect reasonably a 5.5 ERA, and probably be more healthy than Luzardo. Luzardo, meanwhile, has only pitched over 100 innings once in his career, and I'm not exactly expecting it this season. Maybe you're just hoping to get a wild card at the back of your rotation that if he catches fire, you really have something, but that's a big risk, that they're taking with the money that they had to spend this offseason, especially when you say afterward that, hey, we've spent our money bringing in Kepler and Luzardo. Neither one of those moves, to me, are difference makers for them right now. But maybe they'll prove me wrong. This lineup is pretty much intractable for the next couple of years. They're stuck with the team that they've got. Welcome in, Nick, jumping in. Doubt anything will happen today. I agree. I don't expect much to happen. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day are pretty much, big move less, we'll put it that way. Every now and again we'll get a smaller trade or a smaller signing, but I wouldn't expect anything today. Let's see here. Anthony, how's your Christmas Eve and Christmas Day been? It's been pretty good. Had a live with you guys last night. A lot of you guys subscribed in the overnight hours. As far as, the family, I got to spend time with the family, do the, Christmas tradition, oyster stew for me and Dad, and, the ladies had, spaghetti, and my fiance had tamales. That's what she grew up with, and kind of made it all our own. And opened Christmas gifts and had a good time with Grandma and everybody. So hopefully you guys got to have as much fun as we did. Had a fun time playing a game my mom found online. We ended up playing that for 3 hours. So it was a pretty good day. And Christmas Day, we're going to go over and have ham and potatoes here, about 20-30 minutes. So it'll be pretty good. Hopefully you guys are having fun on your Christmas Day. David, I'm hearing a lot of Las Vegas teams are becoming more reluctant. MLB teams are becoming more reluctant to deal with Scott Boras unless it's one of his top free agents. Yes and no. I think that was the discussion last year because of how things ultimately unfolded with Snell and Montgomery. You see how things worked out this year. Montgomery did right by Snell, making sure he was one of the first guys that came off the board instead of Corbin Burnes. Now, Burnes might take a little bit of time here, But Boras ultimately gets his number one way or the other. You saw that with Blake Snell. Essentially, you take the 1 year with an option last year, lump it together with the deal that he got with the Dodgers this year. Snell did very well. Montgomery, on the other hand, he was the second player last year that really got hosed in that negotiating window. And I still would say Montgomery, got a raw deal. And his performance didn't warrant a big contract this year because of how bad it went in Arizona. You're going to have to probably eat half of that deal if you're the Diamondbacks and hope another team takes the rest of that. But it looks like a negative contract at the time. But every agent, is going to have their ups and downs. But I would agree, in general, teams are a little leery when they deal with Scott Boras. But at the same time, he's got the best talent. And so you're going to have to deal with him at some point. But welcome in, Hank. Merry Christmas. Going to work in an hour. I'll be at work all day tomorrow. So hopefully they don't have you working too hard today. I'll be back in the workforce tomorrow. Hank didn't win the lottery, so back to work. I like that one. Anthony, is there any truth to the rumors that because of this whole issue that their stadium, that this might actually further the chances of Montreal or Tampa Bay being relocated to Montreal permanently? No. Tampa Bay is going to stay in Tampa or in the Florida area. I don't think they move to Montreal. I think an expansion team in Montreal is more likely than them moving, so we'll see. Lonnie, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Chicago, welcome in. Alrighty. Share, support, subscribe. Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas to you. Merry Christmas, everybody. If you guys wouldn't mind helping us out reach our 2,000 subscriber goal, we're getting very close. Got almost 30 likes on the video already. I got about 65 of you guys in here right now. Hit that like button if you wouldn't mind already. Let's go ahead and check in on some of the other possibilities that I was wanting to get to today. Let me pull up my screen for you guys. As you can see, nothing's really happening on X. So we're going to go ahead and skip over to MLB trade rumors. They came out with a bunch of different contract news and notes anyway over the last 24 hours because there's really nothing to report as far as rumors. And just something to kind of keep in mind when you're looking at where a player may go. Look, what's the biggest contract a team has ever done? For instance, the Mariners. Robbie Cano is the biggest they've ever done. Did that work out for them? I would say no. A team like the Minnesota Twins. Did that work out with Carlos Correa 6 for 200? So far, I would say no. A team like the Baltimore Orioles, who's trying to bring back a guy named Corbin Burnes, 7 for 161 is the biggest contract they've ever done. Burnes would be by far the biggest they've ever done if they did 7 for 220 or for 210. Did the Davis deal work out? No. So you can understand why some teams have some trepidation when it comes to giving big money and how these smaller markets have to keep that in mind when they're trying to get things done. For instance, the Marlins, Giancarlo Stanton, $325 million. They basically had to say, hey, Yankees, we'll pay down some of the deal. Just please get it off of our books, and we'll take back a prospect or two just so we can show something to the fan base. They ended up having to do something like that. The Rangers, way back in the day, had to do the same thing with Alex Rodriguez. So these small market teams that we always say, we want more parity. We don't want all these big teams, just getting the big money players. We want these smaller market teams to have a chance, a salary cap. If a team had a salary cap and still could afford a $30 million contract on their books, do you think it would be a good thing for a team like the Baltimore Orioles or something like that to invest in a player like that when they still have to spend money on other priorities on that team? Probably not. The reason why I've been pushing for it with Corbin Burnes with the Orioles, they have the money. All of their guys right now are cheap and on rookie deals, pre-arbitration guys. This is the time where they could afford something like that. Whereas a team like the Twins, who's been having money issues for the last 5-6 years, they go out there and bring in Carlos Correa. Sure, that really elevates your profile, but did it, make you a division winner, a prohibitive division winner? Did it make you a favorite to win the World Series? Probably not. And so you just got to take into account where these teams stand financially when you enter free agency as to the deals they ultimately could go for. Welcome in, Justin. Appreciate you joining us. Greetings from California. I don't expect big moves today. Absolutely, I agree with you there. I do expect Kirby Yates to hopefully sign here in the next 24 to 48 hours. I was hoping it would be before Christmas Eve, but Texas is really pushing hard right now for Corbin Burnes. I imagine everybody's kind of stepping away for Christmas, but I'd expect Kirby Yates to be one of the first players off the board once the Christmas break here is over. I would expect it certainly before New Year's, and then the rest of the free agent market on the relief side may really get rolling. As for Bregman and for Burnes, looks like their candidacy may take a little bit of time into January, but certainly not happening today. Anthony, if you were a commissioner and you had a chance to realign the divisions, how would you do it? Travel, purely based on travel. I wouldn't care about rivalries because you're still going to be able to have those rivalries with the teams that are in your geographic area, and then the teams that are that you've always been in the same division with, that you may be closer to another team or whatever the case may be. That's how I would. You may still have that same rivalry because of the travel and the way the 13 games in the division and the rest of the schedule breaks down. It's not necessarily sacrificing the rest of the rivalries, but I would primarily focus it on doing it based off of travel. Anthony, should I believe any of these perceived connected people who cover the NBA saying Jimmy Butler wants to be out of Miami when they don't really have the sources within our team? I do believe they have the sources in their team. I think that's part of why the agent lashed out so hard at Shams Charania when he first came out with the reports. He wasn't even reporting on the Jimmy Butler side of it. He was saying that Miami may be looking for a new home for Jimmy Butler originally. Then he came out saying Jimmy Butler would feel more comfortable if he was looking somewhere else. Now we're getting some comments about Pat Riley's comments at the end of last year, 23-24, being part of the reason why Jimmy Butler wants out. And when you have Pat Riley versus your best player, the writing's on the wall. He's going to be traded. And honestly, I think it'd be a better move for the Miami Heat anyway. I think they should get younger, even if it was for a piece like Bradley Beal. As unsavory as a contract as that is, I would still rather have him at this point than Jimmy Butler if I'm Miami. Anthony, I don't think it'd be a good idea for a small market team to spend big money on a big time free agent because eventually they're going to have to trade the player. Yes, but at a certain point, your payroll is so low. That's my argument with the Orioles, is that their payroll is so low right now. Now's the time to invest that money. Say you go after Luis Castillo. That's 4 years, $20-ish million. You'd pay Corbin Burnes an additional 3 years at around 30. So the end of that deal would start to look a little hairy as far as the financial future of the Orioles. But the next 4 years, you could really compete and win a World Series with that. And the Orioles, it's been a long time since they've been in that conversation. And they've done a nice job, making the trades to bring in some starting pitching, but then they don't retain it. That's my issue there. Welcome in, Steven. Welcome in. Welcome in. David, any steam behind Correa to the Yankees? A little bit. Before the offseason, we kind of all thought the Twins were entering a down cycle of their team. They're probably going to have to go through a quote-unquote rebuild, retool of that team, that organization. And the most logical piece to at least save them money was to move off of Carlos Correa. Now, there haven't been too many teams connected with him. The Mets and Yankees probably the most fervently. Honestly, I think those are probably the two teams that ultimately could get a deal done for him. If I had to guess a team that he would go to, I think it'd probably be the Mets, because the Mets were interested in bringing him in already. The issue was the health of the player, and if they can get the Twins to kind of mitigate a little bit of the cost of that, I think they could get a deal pulled off. Now, for the Yankees side of things, their issue is the money. They would have to get the Twins to eat a bunch of that deal, maybe even take back Stroman in that deal as well. That, to me, is a little bit less likely. Nick, I think the strike is coming in 27, so enjoy 26-27 season. Honestly, that does worry me, because this CBA could be a little bit hairy between the Players Association and Major League Baseball. There's so many issues, so many big-ticket items that take some time to sort out, and I don't see either side being relatively flexible on any of those issues. So we could very well see another work stoppage later on, but hopefully they start to make some headway this year and into next year, and hopefully they can get that issue list down to like 3 or 4 big things rather than a 10 or a 12 item list. Merry Christmas, Skrills, anyway. Appreciate you joining us once again. Got about 80 of you guys with us right now. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe, goes a long way to helping out our channel. If you enjoy the baseball coverage, you're not going to get this coverage anywhere else. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're very close to hitting our goal of 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We gained 12 in the overnight hours. We're only 14 away when we started this video. If you guys wouldn't mind helping us get there, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us. Got about 80 of you guys with us. So like I said, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like on the video, that'd really help us out. Anthony, if I realign the division, I want your thoughts. Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Miami, and Tampa. I don't like that division at all. Houston, Texas makes sense. Atlanta, a little bit less so. Miami, no. Tampa, no. To me, Tampa would probably be more lumped in with some of the East Coast teams that are out that direction. I would say Texas would probably be a better fit with teams that are, like the Kansas City Royals are a closer team. A team like the Colorado Rockies a little further away, but nobody's really close to Denver. they would be another team that could be a fit there. So that would be kind of how I see things at the moment. But again, I don't have an issue with the divisions right now, but I get your thought exercise there. My thought would all be based off of travel. Why is it that the players are so against an international draft, but the actual commissioner's office wants it? Money. Pure and simple, money, Anthony. It's about those international free agents having the freedom to choose their team and not have to, go to a team that, drafts them that may be in a poor situation or may not be of interest to them. The draft is always best for teams because it always disperses the talent evenly, or at least that's the thought process behind it. It also caps the cost on players. That's one of the biggest reasons why they would like a draft, is so they could manage the cost and be able to manage the payroll of teams on an international signing basis. That's why they would prefer that. So clean, or clean and simple issue about it is the money. B Skrills, I had to make sure when I was on last time I subscribed. Great baseball content. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Got about 85 of you guys, so if you guys want to take the advice there and hit that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us today. Merry Christmas, everybody. David, baseball has the most parity of all the other sports because almost any team can get hot and win the World Series, but a few teams will always be very good. Yankees, Dodgers. I would agree. Baseball has a lot of staying power. That's why it's called America's pastime. Football has overtaken it as far as popularity in America, but I would say baseball has done a great job of keeping teams around, of keeping teams relevant. Now, there are teams that have been relatively bottom dwellers for the majority of their time. For instance, the Marlins, they come up every now and again, but for the most part, they're a sub-500 team. The Rockies, same kind of thing. Every now and again, they'll have a great run, like they did with Troy Tulowitzki, and I want to say '07, but most part, they struggle with pitching, and that's been the issue because it's Colorado. It's hard to pitch. It's hard to be able to curve the ball in and out. That's why it kind of, baffles me why they haven't figured out that just going velocity and just going for guys who can sink the ball rather than guys who can curve it is the best way to go. I know they've tried it with a few players every year, but they've never really gone a whole pitching staff who does velocity, different arm angles, things like that to really give themselves a nice chance on the mound. Now, I understand the ball's going to fly further. It is Colorado. It's harder to throw curves, but you have to learn how to pitch in your environment, and they've struggled to have any success on the mound. Meanwhile, teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox really benefit from having a big market from which to draw financial resources from, and they've really kind of taken advantage of that. Now, all teams don't operate the same way. Teams that don't have the ability to play in those types of markets are given some revenue sharing options. They're giving ways to go through the draft and development process. If you do struggle one year, you're probably going to have a higher pick. You're not going to have guarantee of the number one pick anymore because of the lottery system, but I like where baseball has been able to keep things relevant for every single fan base out there. For instance, the Pittsburgh Pirates, they were able to get one of the best pitching prospects we've seen in the last 20 years in Paul Skeens. He's going to be on their roster for probably at least the next 5-6 years, and if things don't work out financially, you can trade him, get a haul back, and then you're right back drafting at the top of the draft, and hopefully you can hit again. But these teams have to operate differently. For instance, the New York Yankees were primarily built through free agency. Very few of those players are actually homegrown guys. The only ones you can really point to, Aaron Judge, Anthony Volpe, and Luis Gil right now. But trades and free agency is generally how they operate. A team like the Miami Marlins, they have to keep circulating that minor league farm system and have to promote from within. Same thing with the Guardians, same thing with the A's. And it's just different ways of building a team. Not saying one is right and one is wrong. It's just two different ways of doing it. And doesn't mean one is more competitive than the other. It just means that some is guaranteed, at least, of being able to have some of the better players. But at a certain point, you still have to build a team. You still have to be able to perform in the clutch. You still have to be able to, play the game, pitch the ball, catch the ball and hit the ball. And each team has a fair shake at all of those options. Alrighty, John, welcome in. Any news on the Yankees' third baseman? It sounds like they're leaning more towards their internal option there. We'll have to see if they ultimately decide to go that route or if they bring in a supplemental hitter like a Jose Iglesias. But unless they move Stroman and get Arenado, or the Cardinals to eat quite a bit of Arenado, it sounds like they're going to go cheap at third base. These two football games are going to get more ratings than the NBA today. I would say so. Only reason I would say NBA might draw a little bit better is because they're more on a mainstream format, whereas Netflix, I don't have Netflix right now. Can't afford it. And, yeah. As much as I would love to have watched those two games, I'm not paying for Netflix just to watch 2 games of football. I might get it next year, kind of trim down some of my streaming services, but Netflix at the moment is not one of those options. Anthony, did you see that multiple teams are finally at grievance about the Miami Marlins getting a little bit from the pay, little bit of a pay bump in their payroll? I have not actually. David, can you see a team like the Royals keeping their star Bobby Witt, or could you see them eventually trading him for a haul? Both, honestly. I think they could keep him. I think he could be a career-long, Kansas City Royal, and I think he probably will be. I don't see any reason that they would trade him at the moment. But say they, really start to, stink again. Witt decides, hey, I want out of here. I want a chance to compete in a big market. We could see something like that. But as it stands right now, I think he probably finishes his career with Kansas City. I like the Nationals' young talent. I could see them making some noise this year or next. This year, I think it'll be a little tough. They do have one of their younger starting pitchers who's going to be out for the year. And they do bring in Nathaniel Lowe. I think they'll be better this year. I think they'll be much better next year when they're going to be spending a ton of money in free agency. They've saved up quite a bit of a piggy bank over the years. And remember, the ownership and the GM there are all very friendly with Scott Boras. And Scott Boras usually controls some of the best players in the business. They're going to get a couple of players next year, mark my words, and they have some really good talent that's going to get their feet wet this year. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with in that NL East. You look at the way that division currently stacks up. You probably have the Mets on top as far as I'm concerned, with the Phillies a close second. Braves to me are a third, followed by the Nationals and then the Marlins. Marlins aren't in this conversation because they're not competitive. Meanwhile, the Mets, they're going to continue to spend. I think they're going to be at the top of the division. You look at the two teams in the middle, though. Philadelphia is in an intractable spot financially. They're not going to be able to make any moves, really, over the next couple of years. They could be one team that starts to fall, and in, say, 2 years, the Nationals could be ahead of them in that division. You look at the Braves. They've really locked up quite a few different key spots around that lineup all around the diamond, but they still need to improve that rotation. They still have holes in the lineup. That bullpen is a little bit thin. They're still, a good team, but they have financial issues that a team like the Mets does not. A team like the Nationals does not, because of that young talent that they're going to be able to save and be able to spend on bigger free agents. So we could very well see the Nationals overtake the Phillies and Braves inside of 2 years. Let's see here. This is a John's question. I'm a huge Marlins fan. Why does it seem like we struggle to develop hitters? Is it because our development system is horrendous on the offensive side, and we always have to trade our elite pitching to get hitters, and other minor league systems like Arizona? I would agree that they have always struggled to get some hitting options in there, but remember, it's not so long ago that they had Ozuna, that they had Stanton, that they had Yelich, and ultimately couldn't afford to keep them. But they have historically done very well with pitching, not so well with hitting. I think it's because they prioritize pitching as they should, but they haven't really been able to do what the Tampa Bay Rays have done and utilize that pitching via trade and get the hitting options that they need to be able to make this a contending team year over year over year. The Rays are exemplary at doing this. The Marlins are a case study of how it goes wrong. Abraham, who are your last place teams for 2025? Great question. AL East. Let's see. You got the Yankees, Orioles, Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Rays. I'm going to go ahead and say the Blue Jays, just because I don't think they're going to get the free agents they need, and at the trade deadline, all the conversation is going to be, are they going to trade Vladdy? In the Central, I'm going to go ahead and say the White Sox. Fairly easy on that one. In the West, I'm going to go ahead and say, the Angels. I like the pieces that they brought in, but I think they should have done it a little differently. I still think they're the bottom dwellers there. NL East, that one's clearly the Marlins. NL Central, who we got here? We got the Cardinals, we got the Cubs, Brewers, Pirates, and Reds. All of those teams are going to be very competitive for different reasons. I'm going to say the team that finishes in the bottom is probably the Cardinals, because they're trying to develop some young guys. However, they're the Cardinals. They don't usually finish below 500, but this is probably the year, if it was going to happen, this will be the year it happens. And then in the NL West, I'm going to go ahead and say the Rockies are the bottom dweller there. David, I got the Braves number 1 in that division now, but we will see. I like the Braves. I just think that they don't have quite the lift that either of the Phillies or the Mets do right now. I'd say the Phillies' best rotation in that division. I'd say the Mets' best offense in that division. I'd say the Braves are probably second best at both of those categories. Probably makes them a little bit more consistent, but they're very thin in that rotation, thin in the outfield, and they basically are a one-man show in that bullpen right now. They need to improve that bullpen. It sounds like they're going to do so on a shoestring budget. we'll see who they bring in. Welcome in, D-Rod. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. Got about 92, 93 of you guys with us right now. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe, go a long way to helping our channel. We are very close to hitting 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We were 14 away when we started this video. We gained 12 overnight. Let's see how close we can get during this live. So if you wouldn't mind, smash that subscribe button. It really does help us out. So thank you guys very much. Anthony, who is your worst first team in the MLB next year? So I guess the team that wins the least amount of games. Out of those teams that I mentioned, Marlins are in the discussion. Rockies are in that discussion. White Sox are still in that discussion. And the Blue Jays. I don't think the A's are going to lose enough games, or the Angels are going to lose enough games. White Sox, just because they have really nothing at the major league level that gives me confidence that they're going to, change complete course of action. They basically won 40-ish games last year. I don't think a team's going to really get close enough to them as far as losing, say, 50, 55 games. Meanwhile, the White Sox might be a little bit improved, but I don't think they're 20, 25 games better. So I'll go ahead and say the White Sox still. Every season, there's always a team that surprises on the upside and one on the downside. A team that would surprise on the upside to me would be the Mariners. Kind of a cop-out answer because I think they have a great rotation. But if they get some hitting, they could be a team that really surprises. But for a team that nobody's talking about, I'm going to go ahead and say the Royals. Not that they're going to be a playoff team. I think they will. But that they're going to win a whole lot more games than any of us expect. I really like the way they've developed that team, and I think they're ready, with the pieces they brought in to continue to grow in that division. It's a very winnable division. Tigers are a very good team. Guardians are a great team in that division, but the AL East is significantly tougher. That's going to keep their win totals down. The AL West, they're going to have some injury issues throughout the season, and I don't believe in the Mariners without them being able to get a bat in there. So I'll go ahead and say the Royals on the AL side. On the NL side, who's a team that could surprise us? I'm going to go ahead and say the Diamondbacks. Say Jordan Montgomery gets back to being his dominant self. They could really turn some heads out there and push for the division crown. I think the Dodgers ultimately win it going away, but they may really surprise us. On the downside of things, we're expecting kind of the Blue Jays to kind of implode, so that's a cop-out answer, but let's choose somebody else besides the Blue Jays. A team that might surprise us on the downside, to me, a team at risk is the Atlanta Braves on the NL side. I have them as my 4th or 5th best team on the NL side. I really like Atlanta. They're one of my 3 favorite teams ever. But I just worry about the depth in that lineup, the rotation having some issues, the bullpen not being taken care of. Those are red flags to me, and they can address it, don't get me wrong, but right now there's a lot of red flags around that Braves team for me. I love the Braves. Like I said, the Rangers are my number 1 team. Twins are my number 2. Braves are my number 3. I just have a lot of red flags around the Braves. On the AL side, besides Toronto, who's a team that could really disappoint? I'm going to go ahead and say the Orioles. They're a team that has a lot of power. They're going to play well during the 162 offensively. The question is, do they have enough pitching to be able to get it done? If they get, let's say, another starting pitcher in there like Burnes or Castillo or Cease, then I'll kind of revise my, what I'm saying here. But for right now, I would say the Orioles. If the Orioles, get somebody in there for that rotation, the team that I would pick to kind of disappoint would be a team like the Detroit Tigers. I like some of the pieces they moved or that they brought in. Tarek Skubal still there, Cy Young, all that kind of thing. But to me, they still have Javi Baez taking up a lot of that payroll right now. Miggy's no longer going to be there to kind of keep the thing going offensively, to keep that clubhouse even keel. I just think there's a lot of volatility in that Detroit Tigers team to where they could win 90 games, but they could just as easily win 70 in my book. So those are the teams that I'm looking at to have a kind of a perilous season. Welcome in, Eddie. Appreciate you joining us. Which minor leaguers look good to make opening day rosters like Matt Straw? That is one of them. I would have said Andrew Painter out there with the Philadelphia Phillies had a chance to be on that Major League roster. I think he will still be there at some point this year. If they hadn't brought in Jesus Luzardo, he probably would have been up earlier. I think the Rangers, you're looking at Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, that might break into the rotation at the very start of the year. Roki Sasaki's an easy one because he's never pitched in Major League Baseball. Sugano as well. As far as prospects, Roman Anthony for the Boston Red Sox comes to mind as well. There's a few different prospects out there. Maybe the third base prospect the Yankees keep blowing up as well. Maybe he would be as well. David, I could see the Orioles taking a step back and a random team like the Rays being the Yankees' new nemesis all season. Possibly. D-Rod, Rays have a heck of a road schedule in June, July, and August. I would agree there. They also have, Wander Franco's no longer there. McClanahan's coming back from injury. Rays could be there, but I don't think anybody's expecting the Rays to win the division, at least right now. They're expecting them to be at least good, an 80 to a 90 win team, but I don't think anybody has them penciled in for 110 wins or 70 wins. I think they're still a good team. Are they a great team? I would say they're a flawed team more than anything else. Anthony, let me clarify my question. Who is your worst first team in any division that you can see likely making playoffs, and then they have a horrible record the previous year? So who's a division winner I could see? Okay. The Rangers come to mind just because they didn't make the postseason last year. I think they have a very good chance to win the division this year. Another team that could win the division, the Reds, if they get another outfield bat and a starting pitcher, I think they could be in that conversation. I think all of those teams in that NL Central Division have a legitimate chance to win at that 85 to 92 win mark. And, the division might ultimately come down to an 89 to a 92 win team, and any one of those teams could be that fit. I guess pretty much anybody in that Central could win the division there. The AL Central is going to be between the Guardians, and you hope the Tigers and Royals. I just think they dropped the gun and traded away Naylor and AG and the Twins. I could see Correa getting traded. I could see Correa, but I think that's still a little bit in the offing. They got to figure out the money there with the Mets and Yankees first. Trading away Naylor and Jimenez, honestly, I like for the Guardians. I get that, you'd like to have Naylor's bat in that lineup. You think he's a better hitter than Santana. I would agree there. I think the overall value of Santana is going to be comparable to what Naylor does for you. I think their offense is going to suffer a little bit, but I think the team as a whole is better because of the moves that they made this offseason. Honestly, Jimenez, to get somebody to bite down on him is surprising. Just for that, I love this move for the Guardians, kind of resetting a little bit of their salary tables. They were expected to possibly move on from Naylor and Lane Thomas this offseason to bring in a big piece for this team. Ultimately, they did not. They ultimately go more of what the Guardians have always done, trading expiring assets for pieces that could help them in years forward. And I like what they've done. They've done it the Guardians way all this time, and they're continuing to stay competitive. Got about 80 of you guys with us. We're about to go ahead and head out. Got a Christmas dinner waiting for us with the family. But if you guys want to go ahead and send your final questions, go ahead and send them now. We'll be wrapping up here in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Go ahead and catch up on some of these comments here. Abraham, a trade that can come out of nowhere. Texas has done a really good job coming out of nowhere with trades before. Maybe they're in store for another one. Ryan Helsley comes to mind. Mariners could do something surprising and bring in Mountcastle in return for Castillo, although everybody and their mother's looking at Castillo as the guy that could be traded out of that Mariners team. As far as another team that could be looking to make some trades, looking at Houston and Ryan Presley, maybe he gets moved to the Dodgers or somebody else who needs a closer. For instance, Detroit, you got A.J. Hinch there. Maybe there's a connection. They are looking at Kirby Yates. With the Rangers going to push hard right now for Kirby Yates, I don't think the Tigers are going to get him. Maybe their fallback option instead of Tanner Scott, who I think is going to go to the Dodgers or Yankees, their fallback is going to be Ryan Presley. So that would be kind of a quote-unquote out-of-nowhere trade that I'm kind of looking at right now. B. Skrills, I'm just hoping the prospects come up and ball out this year for the Guardians. True, but the Guardians have had a good track record of success with those guys. So, I think you've got good legs to stand on if you're hoping for that. Ronald Acuna can't stay healthy. True. He has had issues. I wouldn't necessarily say he's injury prone. I would just say he's had bad luck with injuries, and if he gets one more significant injury, I think we can go ahead and close the book. It is injury prone at that point. Doc, Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. Thank you guys for joining us today. Jim, welcome back. Any news on Burnes or Roki? Roki has already taken meetings with the Cubs, Mets, Giants, Yankees, Rangers, and a couple of others. He's taken pitches from pretty much every team, but he's not going to meet with all of them. And remember, he's not going to sign until January 15th through the 23rd to maximize his return or to maximize his value with the international bonus pool issue. But that's kind of your update on Roki. Burnes, looks like the Giants are the clear front runner right now, but they may not be willing to go above certain tax thresholds, which is what's holding up the value for Corbin Burnes. the longer he sits out there, teams that are not in the running or weren't considering Corbin Burnes could look at him and say, hey, there's an opportunity here to really upgrade our rotation, and all it's going to really cost us is money and qualifying offer issues. I get it. The Giants, I think, should pony up here. I think they are considerably the favorite. I think the Toronto Blue Jays have the most money on the table, but I don't think they have the best offer because they don't have a solid team around them for years to come. It'd be strictly a money grab if you went to Toronto at this point, but I would expect the Giants are still the favorite there. The teams that we've heard around the periphery here, the Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles, Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Rangers. Any number of other teams could jump into this one based on how long this could take for Burnes. Maybe they free up money elsewhere. Holly, when do you think the Rangers officially announce the signing of Jock Peterson? They've got a few deals that they have yet to announce. I would expect this to probably come down to what the contract looks like for Kirby Yates. And if they do end up getting in the conversation for Corbin Burnes, they can backload the deals. They can structure them however they want to. I think that's part of the holdup here. But I think the primary reason is Kirby Yates, what it's going to take, how they structure the deal. But I would expect it sometime before the beginning of the new year. Alrighty, thank you guys for joining us today. Got to get going. Got a Christmas dinner to get to. I just wanted to say thank you guys for joining us, making this such a successful year. We just crossed our 3-year anniversary here on YouTube. If you want to help us celebrate, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us who your favorite team is. Send us a comment if you have an idea for a trade you want to get our thoughts on here. I'd be happy to help you out. And thank you guys for subscribing. We're trying to reach 2,000 by the end of the year. We're very close to getting there, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, it'd go a long way to helping us out. Follow us on X at Upside Ascend and on Facebook at Upside Sports Network. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys later on this evening when we recap all the latest that may happen today. But like I said, I'm not expecting much. I want to get into some of the names that are left on the free agent market and what we could see with the rest of those names that are out there. Names not including Bregman and Burnes. There's a lot of talent still out there on the free agent market, and we'll dig into all of their candidacies as well this evening. Probably be around 8, 9 o'clock, so be looking forward to that live. And if you hit that like and subscribe, turn on your alerts, you'll be notified when we do go live. We'll post it on X and on Facebook as well. So we'll see you guys later on this evening. Y'all have a great day, and Merry Christmas, everybody.